Insider says why mortgage rates are doomed to stay above 7% for the foreseeable future. Okay. And this is a insider story. 7% for the foreseeable future. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. With the Federal Reserve unlikely to raise rates before September, housing market analysts expect mortgage rates to remain above 7% for the most of 2024. Fannie Mae predicts the 30-year mortgage rate to reach 7.1 the upcoming quarter, significantly higher than the previous 6.4, while Freddie Mac's baseline scenario includes one rate cut towards the end of the year. Wow, Freddie Mac is now only thinking one, but maintains elevated mortgage rates throughout. Rising inflation caution Fed policies have led to revised forecasts for borrowing costs. Freddie Mac's chief economist, Doug Duncan, noted, we see rates remaining closer to 7% through the end of the year. The market has reacted to discouraging consumer price index reports, complicating the outlook for potential buyers and sellers. High mortgage rates have disincentivized homeowners from selling, as many are locked in rates below 4%. Tom.
Yep. And this is connected to this morning, Cash Kari, my favorite guy with the Fed, actually, because I think he's pretty balanced, but he's been out there talking. He was on CNBC this morning. He's out of the Fed Bank in Minneapolis. And he basically points out and says, listen, we need to see a lot more positive inflation data before we cut rates this summer. So what does that mean for you and me? What that means for you and me, Rob, do we have the list of, what we think the rates are going to be? Here it is. And this is what we were talking about just now. Here's what it means, America. It means that between now and the end of the year, 7 to 6.75%, meaning at the end of the year, 6.6, 6.75. That's what it's going to be about the end of the year. And at the end of next year, looking at like 6. So when they say 7% for the foreseeable future, it's probably 7% through third quarter, and maybe get a little cut, and then it's not going to be dramatic, Pat. It's going to be like 6.75. So that's where it's going. And so if you're going to buy a house and then you're thinking you're going to refi 6 months later, no, you'll probably refi 2 years later. So that's what I think people should look at when you're making your personal plan. If you can afford that house and you can afford the payment and you can afford 6.75, that's what you're going to have toward the end of this year. And it's probably going to be 2 years before you get cuts to a point where you can make a refi that makes sense.
2 years.
Yeah.
So you're taking 2026.
Correct, because the end of next year, they're only looking at 6% mortgages. And this is all the people that are out there.
Now, let me ask you a
Freddie
question,
Mac,
Tom.
Fannie Mae, National Association.
Tom, let me ask you a question. Say Trump gets elected. What do you think is the likelihood of him firing Powell and replacing him?
Powell's been such a lightning rod. Remember, he's elected to a term. So would Trump invoke authority and then get him not elected to his next term? I think Trump's going to look for a new Fed leader, yes.
Okay,
but
and when does that happen?
He can't fire him.
When is Powell's? Can you look at when Powell's term is up? When is Jerome Powell's term up?
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Because I thought it was before midterms.
Oh, wow. Okay, so is it
26, May 15, 2026, yes. So coming into Trump's midterm election, he would have an opportunity to change the Fed chair.
So he's staying till 2026. Okay.
Which is why people think
Does
that
that
those...
say 2028?
No, it says as a member of the board
gotcha.
ends, but being the chair, May 15, 2026. So when you look at this, then you going back and you saying the fact that it's probably going to stay around the sixes, even in 2025, seems very reasonable. You're thinking 2026, like Q3, it may drop to like what, 4s or 5s?
Yeah. So if you got a 6.75 or a 7 this year, 24.
Yeah.
2 years from now, probably a 5.5, 5 3/4, and you can refi it.
5.5. You're not thinking we're seeing 4s in a while.
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I agree. I don't
maybe
think
a 5 for really good credit, and you buy half a point. That kind of a deal.
For sure. But 4.5, that's not coming anytime soon. Those are the days of what we had in the past. Yeah, I agree with you. But now watch this. Here's the crazy part. And I'm going to come to you right afterwards, Adam. Housing prices hits another record high as affordability crisis deepens. So rates are remaining high. They're not dropping, but affordability crisis deepens because prices are not going down. So let me read this part here to you. So housing prices hits a new record with the median U.S. households hits $387,600 a 4% increase from the previous year, according to Redfin. Despite a slight dip in mortgage rates, 7.02, the monthly mortgage payment remains as high as $28.54. That's the average mortgage payment. Lisa Sturdivant, MLS chief economist, notes elevated mortgage rates and high home prices have been keeping some buyers on the sideline this spring. You think that they've been sitting on the sidelines? The affordability crisis is driven by years of underbuilding, a rise in mortgage rates, and expensive construction materials. This has created a golden handcuff effect where homeowners with low mortgage rates from the pandemic rate reluctant to sell, further limiting supply. Sam Brinton, a Redmond premier agent, says move up buyers feel stuck because they're ready for their next house, but it just doesn't make financial sense to sell with the current interest rates. He's right. Adam, thoughts on this?
Well, like with anything, it depends on who you are in the situation. You know, because there's a story here right below that, the baby boomers are approaching peak burden of the economy. So here's what I would tell you. If that you're a young person looking to buy a house, it's not your turn, buddy. What's the reason? Supply and demand. The story right here basically said housing prices hit another record high as affordability crisis deepens. Listen, when you're going to buy something, you have to ask yourself, is it cheap or is it expensive? And that's how you can kind of weigh your options. It is incredibly expensive to buy a house right now. Now, I know a lot of people, we've been sort of given the propaganda of like, if you're renting, you're throwing away money. If you're renting, you're throwing away money. But it all depends on where you're at in life. If you're young and you're just starting out your career and maybe have the opportunity to live with a buddy, live with a roommate, live with a girlfriend, whatever it is, renting is fine, and just pump all your money into the market. Now, if you're a baby boomer, you know, typically baby boomers, when they approach 65, you know, when I started in the financial world, I heard a stat about baby boomers that starting in 2010, I believe, for the next 20 years, 10,000 baby boomers will turn 65 every single day. Boom, 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 boom. Every single day, birthday, blowing out 65 candles. So here's the deal. Usually, typically, as they retire, they downsize. Their kids are out of the house. They're like, all right, forget it. We're moving to Florida. The reality is at this point, since COVID and since these interest rates, they're not going anywhere. They're like, why would I sell my house that has a 2% mortgage, 3% mortgage, 4% interest rate to go spend 7% on a mortgage? It doesn't make any sense. So they're staying put. So supply and demand is limited. So if you're the Vinny of the world or a younger person of the world, you're like, I'm looking for a house. Too bad. Now, what I would tell the mortgage brokers out there and the realtors out of the world, here's a little advice to you guys. Here are 3 words that made me a lot of money. When you're calling on people and you're calling on potential clients, here are 3 words you could use to pique someone's interest. Things have changed. Because when things change, people feel motivated to do something. Right now, what's happening in the economy with the mortgage rates and everything that's going on, it's status quo. So if you're out there being like, how can I make some money? How can I basically deliver a different message to the consumer, to my client? Let them know that things have changed, whatever it is. And even if it's that they have to refinance in a few years, that's something that can change.
All right, guys, can you check your phones to see if alerts coming from you or not, Adam? See if it's turned off or not. It's one of ours. Rob, if you can check it. So you know, but for me, like the average person, Tom, is listening, you know, home ownership, dream, investment. Should I get into one? Should I not get into one? The slow play. Can you go, Rob, to history of rate of return in real estate? Type in history of rate of return in real estate. Okay, if you can do that.
I like what
I'm actually really curious to know what happens after 1981. So go to history on housing. Okay, click on that rate of return. Click on that, Rob.
Before you show it, can we guess?
No, I mean, what are we guessing though, right? Because what I want to know is, I want to know in rate of return. That's not the one I'm looking for. I'm looking something like that. Yeah, that's
I'm
what
gonna
I'm go back.
Can I
to
make
that
an
one?
assumption before we see it?
Go ahead.
I think that the stock market is double whatever real estate is.
Okay, but
So I think real estate is around 5%, and I think the stock market is around 10%.
Watch this. In the 30s, real estate dropped 1.2. Stock was up. Stock down. So that's obviously Great Depression. 0.9. That decade.
Yep.
Cash 1, bonds 4, gold 5.3, inflation minus 2%. So it's the opposite. 40s, stock 8.5, real estate 8.1. So they're about the same. Inflation 5.4. 50s, Stock 19.5%. Vinny, this is good for you to see. Real estate 3%. Inflation 2.2%. The difference between real estate and stock, look at that. 16.5% above real estate. Gold's only 1%. 60, 7.7. Real estate 2.2. So 5.5 above. Inflation 2.5. 70 stocks 5.9. Real estate beats. And that's because of boomers are becoming in their mid-20s, 1946. Yeah, that's cause of boomers are buying houses now. So 8.7, 5.9%. Look at gold. That's when Nixon, we went off the gold standard, so 29%. Inflation 7.4. 80 stock market 17.4, 17.3. Real estate 5.9. So the difference is what? 12%, inflation 5.1, 90s 18% to 2.7 in real estate, 2.9, 2000 stock drops. Okay, this is the 2008 debacle, so -1, real estate 4%, and then inflation 2.6, 2010 13.4 to 3.8, 2020s 11.9 to 10.2, which is about the same. But if you look at this is what I want you to think about. Real estate's only had a minus 1% decade once, okay? Stocks has had it twice, but look what it is. It's not anything crazy. It's 0.9 and it's 1%. So you're not losing money in the stock market over a decade. But look how many double-digit real estate has versus the stock market. Stock market has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double-digit. Real estate only has 1. It's the last week to compete for the Manek contest. If you go up to the Manek contest here, if you haven't yet downloaded the app, Rob, if you want to go to some of the Manek QR codes, download the app, start asking questions and participating with different folks that what we have going on right now. There's a couple new guys that came on that are starting to get a lot of Maneks.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.